Today we're going to talk a little bit about the type tool in Photoshop and how to use that and different varying things you can do with it. First of all, there are two ways to insert type. You can either click and then start typing, and that's very, very small. Let me get that quite a bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. And when you do that, the type will just keep going right off the edge of the page if you don't hit your return or enter key at the end of every line to enter type into. See, so it just goes right off the side. I've got the type centered at this point, but that's what happens if you've got it's set on left justify. So if we don't necessarily want that to happen, I'm going to cut that so I don't have to redo it. And the other option is to draw out a rectangle. So make it as big as you want the area of type to be. So I'm going to basically use most of the canvas here. And then your type will wrap as if it were in a word processor. It will come up with that Greeking stuff where it just puts in nonsense letters to take space but just show you what's there, and the minute you start typing it will enter the regular stuff that you want. Let's see. Wrapping, by the way, is when it automatically goes from one line to the next, like that. So if I select all that, copy it, paste, 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 and it just keeps going ad infinitum, and it'll go right off the page. Well, the nice thing about that is if it does that and you have a certain amount of text to fit in, select it all. It will even select the stuff you don't see and then just change the size of it, and eventually you can just adjust it enough so it will come down and fit into your type box. So that's the other way to enter type into Photoshop. You have several different options for type. If we look over here, we have the horizontal type tool, which is the one you'll use 99% of the time. You have a vertical type tool, which will put type on the vertical. Yeah, I made that type. Apparently I snagged it and made it much too small. There we go. So there's your vertical type tool. And again, okay, and that works the same way. I can come in here and say, okay, I want it to be down at 10 and maybe that'll fit. And there it goes, it does. So that is the second option for type. You also have a couple of masking options, so you can do a vertical type mask or a horizontal type mask, and it just puts out an outline that you can fill in with whatever you want to fill it in with. I'm going to stick to the horizontal type tool because, as I said, that's the one we are going to be using 90% of the time, so we are not going to worry about the other ones at the moment. So okay, as you can see, I can come in here and click on any point, and let me back up just a bit. Okay, so I can come in here. Once the typing is done, you've got a couple of ways to commit the type. So once I'm in here, I can click on this little checkbox up here. That's going to commit the type. In other words, take you out of the type tool and make that a layer that's kind of finished for the moment. You can also, if I come back in here, on the Macintosh, you can go Command Return. That will do the same thing. On the PC, it's Control Enter. So that does the same thing as the little checkbox up top. And once you're committed to the type, it'll disappear. You can come in here at any point, and I'm going to make a lot less type there for the moment. I'm going to make this a lot larger. Not quite that large. There we go. That looks pretty good. There, cool. And what I wanted to do with this was show you up here in the type tool that you have an option for warping the text or making it into different shapes. So none leaves it the way it is. If you go in here and say I want it to arc, it's going to do something like that. If you go down, you can arc it on the bottom. You can do the upper arch. They're all slightly different effects. There's a little bit different arch, and then you've got things like you can bulb it out on the bottom if you've got more than one line of type. That works better. You can make it into a flag where it's kind of waving. So you've got all these different things that you can use. So I'm going to go back to none for the moment and click OK. And hit Command Return again for that. Okay, so one of the things I see very, very commonly is people doing several layers of type when they don't need to. You can come back in here and go in and see I can add more type anytime I want, as long as the type layer has not been rasterized. So, okay, so say you didn't want this type in the same type font. So come in here and just modify by selecting whatever type you want and then going to a different font. That is perfectly reasonable, and you don't have to do it in two different type boxes with two different layers. So you can do that. You can change a lot of the things about the type in here with the type or the character box right here. There's the character box. Let's take a look at it. Right in here we have, that's the size of the type that I'm at right now. If I click in the middle or highlight some of the type, it tells me what it is. I can come in here and change it if I want to anything else I would like it to be. This is the spacing between two letters. So if I were, I can't do that right now because I have a whole word modified here, a whole word highlighted. So if I wanted to space between two letters to do some spacing out, this is where I could do it. I could add more space that way, or I can take away space by using a minus number. So that's the other aspect of the type tool. I can highlight a line of text or even part of a line of text and say, I want more space between the lines. That's called leading. So I can add more space that way. If I want more space between these two lines, I come in and change the leading on there as well. It's going to be the line that you're on versus the line above it to put that in. If I want the tracking changed, and the tracking is the space between the letters, more than one letter. The metrics is between one letter and the next letter. This is between a whole bunch of letters. So this is set at 0 right now. If I want the letters to be crunchy together, I can move it to a minus number. If I want them to be spaced out more, I go to the bigger positive number. And that's how you take care of the tracking on this. I can, but I usually don't. I'm going to put this back at 0. I can come in here and say I want these letters stretched out, so I can make the letters themselves wider. It's distorting the font, so be careful when you're working on anything going to a 4-color printing press. This may not work very well on that. But if you're printing it off on your own or sending it to be printed by a inkjet printer kind of thing, then this is fine to do. I don't generally like distorting letters like that, but you can do it both horizontally and vertically. I would prefer to pick the font I like, but occasionally I'll use this, and I see students do it occasionally as well. You also have some faux fonts down here. So in other words, if I modify that and say I want small caps, it's going to turn everything into caps, and anything that really is a cap, it's going to make slightly larger. So that's small caps is what that one is. This one is all caps. This one is italicized, and this one is bolding it. So you have all of those options as well. You have a couple more in here that are rarely used. I'm not going to go into it at the moment. These are, oh, and you also have, and I do not know, I don't think Arial's one of them. Let's go down to something that would be. I know Bickham Script is one where you have open type capabilities. So in here, you can add like big swashes. See how it adds like the swirly stuff on here? You can add kind of more decorative elements to this, and you can kind of get in there and explore it yourselves. But it's all under the open type style. So you can see you can go farther even than the first swash. So that adds kind of another more decorative element, and it's available in some type, but not all. Some fonts are not all. So I don't believe that's one that has open type options. Oh, it does. Very good. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's one that I use for one of the organizations I belong to. So I had not experimented with that. So that's pretty interesting. Okay. So that's what these little guys are down here for as well. Those are shortcuts to those. So you can do it through the flyout menu, or you can do it with the little shortcut menus down there. So those are most of the things that you can do with your characters, most of the normal things that we do. You also have paragraph setting. You have a paragraph window. Let's get into type. Paragraph styles. Paragraph right there. Okay, so this will allow you, let me see. Okay, so I've got a paragraph here. And I'm going to insert a new paragraph here by just putting in a return. Okay, select all, just make the font a little bit smaller so we can see it. There we go. Okay, so in this case, when we have our paragraph window, which I have right here, we can come in here and say, okay, I want this line or this paragraph to start indented. So you can put in a number to indent that whole paragraph. That's what this is. This is punching over the first line. So if I want that first line kind of moved over, I do that second one down. If I want to bring in the left border, I put in a number above 0, and that will bring the right border in, and so forth and so on. And you can also eliminate any hyphenation. If your words are being broken up by hyphens, you can click off the hyphenation button here so that Photoshop will not hyphenate. So these are your justifications here. I'm going to undo a couple here. There we go. So if I want to click in here, I just hit this and it's going to center the text. This is right justified. This is left justified. This is justify everything, so it'll stretch things out so they'll come to both sides equally. But the bottom line will be justified left. This is justifying the bottom line center. That's justifying the bottom line right. And this will justify even the bottom line. So it'll stretch out the word or words so they take up the whole line. So those are the paragraph options as well. Those are the basic ones right there. I'm going to pull that back up. And then you also you can set paragraph styles here as well. If you've worked in InDesign or other text program, word processing programs, you probably are a little bit familiar with type styles, character styles, and paragraph styles. You can say, okay, I want this. I'm going to make it a certain put certain characteristics with it, and then save that as a new paragraph style by hitting the little plus sign and rename it this way, straight demo style. Whoops. And this helps you save time, because when you want to put something in a certain style, you just come back to that particular style. You can do it for the characters and the entire paragraph. So the paragraph will have options for indenting. Just double click on them and you'll get all the options. There's your basic character options, formats, open type. There's your indenting and spacing, and justification, hyphenation, and everything. So those two are really great time savers. I use them a lot when I do multi-page documents in InDesign. I don't use them so much in Photoshop because most of the time it's just a one-page document there, and I'm not doing a huge amount of type most often. So those are some of the basics about type. I hope that helps. Oh, you do not have to put in a different layer if you want to change the color. Just come in here and pick a new color, and that one word or however many words you want it to be will change color. Again, you can change the font on just one word or even one letter if you want. It's not an issue at all for Photoshop to do that kind of thing. So you have the option of putting as many sizes, type, fonts, colors, anything you want in one type box pretty much when it comes to fonts. So that's it. You have the options for centering up here as well. That's the option for color. You can click it right there and change the color. And the next time I type, it'll be that color. The next time I type in this document, there's your warping option. And this is the commit dialog, the commit little button. So those are some things about type that I thought would be helpful to you, and I hope you enjoyed that.